My name is Michael Turner. I'm 36 years old, and for the past 12 years, I've worked as a maintenance technician in Phoenix, Arizona. It's honest work. Not glamorous, but steady. The kind of job where you clock in, fix what's broken, and clock out knowing you earned your paycheck. I was married to Laura Turner. She's 34. We'd been together for 8 years. 8 years of building what I thought was a solid life. We didn't have much, but we had enough. A small house in a decent neighborhood. 2 reliable cars. A joint savings account that we'd been feeding every month, dollar by dollar, with the goal of maybe buying something bigger one day. Maybe taking a real vacation. The kind of dreams regular people have. I believed in us. I believed in the partnership. I thought we were on the same page about what mattered. Honesty, commitment, building something together even if it took time. I was wrong. It started with small things I tried to ignore. Laura coming home later than usual. Her phone always face down on the counter. The way she'd gotten distant, emotionally checked out. When I'd try to talk to her about it, she'd brush it off. "I'm just tired," she'd say. "Work's been stressful." I wanted to believe her, so I did. For months I convinced myself it was just a phase, that we'd get through it like we'd gotten through everything else. Then came the day I found out the truth. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't looking for anything. I was home early from a job that got canceled, and her laptop was open on the kitchen table. A message notification popped up. From him, her coworker. The message was explicit enough that there was no room for misinterpretation. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring at that screen, feeling like the floor had opened up beneath me. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen it. But I did neither. I took a photo of the screen with my phone. Then I closed the laptop and sat down at that kitchen table, trying to process what my marriage had actually been for God knows how long. When Laura came home that evening, I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just asked her directly, "Are you seeing someone else?" The look on her face told me everything. Panic, then defiance. "Michael, Just answer the question, Laura." She didn't deny it. Instead, she went on the offensive. "You don't get it," she said. "You never did. You're comfortable just being this, a maintenance guy with no ambition. I deserve more than this life, Michael. I deserve someone who dreams bigger." There it was. Not an apology, not remorse, just contempt for the life we'd built, for who I was. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists like this video, and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. I didn't argue with her. What would have been the point? You can't reason with someone who's already decided you're not enough. I just nodded slowly and said, "I'll sign whatever papers you want." She looked almost surprised. Maybe she expected me to beg, to fight for her. But I was done. The divorce moved quickly. Laura wanted it fast, and so did I. No kids to complicate things, just assets to split. Except when it came time to divide everything, I discovered she'd already taken care of that part herself. Our joint savings account, the one we'd been building for years, was empty. Completely drained. She'd transferred every penny to an account in her name only. $12,000. Not a fortune, but it was everything we had. "That money was for my fresh start," she told me through her lawyer. "I earned it just as much as you did." Technically, she was right. It was joint property, and her lawyer made sure she walked away with it. I could have fought it, dragged things out, made it uglier. But I was exhausted. I just wanted it over. So I signed the papers, let her have the money, let her have the house, let her have everything she thought would make her happy. When I walked out of that house for the last time, I had exactly $5 in my wallet and a duffel bag of clothes in my truck. That was it. 8 years reduced to $5 and whatever could fit in a duffel bag. I drove to a coffee shop downtown, sat in my truck for a while just staring at nothing. Then I went inside, ordered a black coffee for $2, and while I was standing at the counter, I saw a scratch-off lottery ticket display by the register. I'd never bought lottery tickets before. Never saw the point, but standing there with $3 left to my name and absolutely nothing to lose, I thought, why not? I bought one ticket, $3. Left me with nothing but that coffee and a piece of paper that would probably just confirm how bad my luck really was. 3 days later, I was staying in a cheap motel off Interstate 10, looking for work, trying to figure out my next move. I'd forgotten about the lottery ticket until I found it crumpled in my jacket pocket. I scratched it off without any expectations, just killing time. Then I saw the numbers. I checked them 3 times, 4 times, pulled up the lottery website on my phone. Checked again. $68 million. I'd won $68 million with my last $3. The ticket had been purchased after I'd signed the divorce papers. After everything was finalized, it was bought with my money, registered in my name alone, with no legal connection to Laura whatsoever. It was mine. Completely, legally, undeniably mine. I sat on that motel bed holding that ticket, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than emptiness. Not joy exactly, not excitement. Just a strange, quiet sense that maybe the universe wasn't completely indifferent after all. The first thing I did was nothing. I didn't tell anyone, didn't post about it, didn't call family or friends. I just sat there processing what had just happened. My ex-wife had taken $12,000 and left me with nothing, thinking she'd gotten the better end of the deal. And now, 3 days later, I was holding a ticket worth $68 million. The irony wasn't lost on me. I hired a lawyer before I even claimed the prize. Not just any lawyer, a good one who specialized in lottery winnings and asset protection. Cost me money I didn't have yet, but he took the case knowing the payout was coming. Smart investment. His first piece of advice, tell no one, not yet, maybe not ever. His second, we're setting up a trust. Your name stays out of the public record as much as legally possible. Arizona's one of the few states that allows some level of anonymity for lottery winners, and we're going to use every protection available. I followed his instructions to the letter. When I claimed the prize, I did it through the trust. The local news ran a story about someone in Phoenix winning the jackpot, but my name never appeared. Just anonymous winner through legal trust. That was it. I took the lump sum. After federal and state taxes, I walked away with about $38 million. Still more money than I'd ever imagined having in my lifetime. The lawyer helped me set up investments, conservative, diversified, designed to generate steady income without me having to touch the principal. He connected me with a financial advisor who didn't ask stupid questions and didn't try to sell me on risky ventures. We built a plan, a real one. I bought a modest house in Flagstaff, about 2 hours north of Phoenix. Nothing flashy. 3 bedrooms, mountain views, quiet neighborhood. Paid cash. $275,000. To most millionaires, that might seem modest. But to me, it represented something money can't buy. Freedom. No mortgage. No ties to anyone. I kept working for another month while I set everything up. Same maintenance job. Same routine. Nobody at work knew. Nobody suspected. I just showed up, did my job, collected my paycheck like always. Then quietly, I gave my 2 weeks' notice. Told my boss I was relocating for a new opportunity. He shook my hand, wished me well, and that was that. No drama. No explanation needed. I changed my phone number. Deleted all my social media accounts, every single one. I kept only a private email address that maybe 5 people in the world knew about. Complete digital isolation. The ones Laura used to monitor, the ones where her friends could keep tabs on me, all gone. I didn't want to be found, not by her, not by anyone from that old life. And then I waited. It took about 2 weeks for the news to reach her. I knew it would eventually. Phoenix isn't that big of a city, and people talk, especially about lottery winners, even anonymous ones. I found out later, through a mutual acquaintance who didn't know I'd changed my number, that Laura had been at a bar with some friends when someone mentioned the Phoenix lottery winner. One of her friends joked, "Wouldn't it be crazy if that was your ex-husband?" Apparently, Laura laughed, said there was no way I'd ever have that kind of luck. But then someone else mentioned the timing. The winner claimed the prize just days after a divorce was finalized. And Laura stopped laughing. She started digging, called mutual friends. Called my old workplace. They told her I'd quit and moved. No forwarding address. No contact information. Then she called my old phone number. Disconnected. She tried social media. All accounts deleted. That's when panic set in. She reached out to her lawyer, who confirmed what she already feared. The lottery ticket was purchased after the divorce was finalized. Not just after papers were signed, but after everything was legally recorded and closed. There was no grounds for her to claim any of it. Not a penny. The money was mine. Solely, completely, legally mine. I heard through the grapevine that she tried everything. She attempted to contact my family. My mother, who'd never liked Laura to begin with, told her she had no idea where I was and hung up. My brother did the same. She even hired a private investigator at one point, spent a couple $1,000s trying to track me down. But I'd been careful. The house in Flagstaff was purchased through the trust. No paper trail leading back to Michael Turner. I'd opened new bank accounts, new credit cards, everything under the trust's legal structure. I'd effectively disappeared. For Laura, this must have been torture. She'd taken $12,000 thinking she'd won, thinking she'd gotten the last laugh. And now she knew that somewhere out there, I was sitting on $38 million, and there wasn't a single thing she could do about it. I didn't take pleasure in her suffering exactly. I'm not that kind of person. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a certain satisfaction in knowing that her greed and betrayal had cost her everything she thought she was gaining. The co-worker she'd been cheating with? That relationship fell apart within 3 months of my divorce from Laura. Turns out he wasn't interested in anything serious. He just wanted the thrill of the affair. Once it wasn't forbidden anymore, he lost interest. Laura ended up alone, with the $12,000 that she burned through in less than a year. New apartment deposits, furniture, a car she couldn't really afford, trying to maintain an image of having upgraded her life. But $12,000 doesn't go far when you're trying to look successful. Meanwhile, I was living quietly in Flagstaff. Some months had passed since the move, and I'd settled into a new rhythm. I got a part-time job at a hardware store, not because I needed the money, but because I needed structure, something to do with my days. The owner was a retired veteran who appreciated people who showed up on time and knew how to work. We got along well. Nobody there knew about the money. I drove a decent but unremarkable truck, wore regular clothes, lived in a nice but not extravagant house. To everyone in Flagstaff, I was just Michael, a guy who'd moved up from Phoenix for a fresh start. Someone who kept to himself but was friendly enough when you talked to him. I started doing some volunteer work, donated anonymously to local charities, a children's hospital, a veterans organization, a scholarship fund for kids from low-income families who wanted to go to trade schools. Nothing flashy, nothing that would draw attention. The money gave me options, but it didn't define me. I was still the same person I'd always been, just with a much better safety net. About 6 months after the divorce, I heard that Laura had reached out to my mother again. This time she was crying, begging for my contact information, saying she'd made a terrible mistake, that she realized now what she'd lost. My mother called me to let me know. "What do you want me to tell her?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Don't tell her anything." "You sure?" "I'm sure, Mom. Some people only realize what they had after they've destroyed it. That's not my problem anymore." My mother respected that. She told Laura she couldn't help her and asked her not to call again. I thought about Laura sometimes, wondered if she regretted her choices, wondered if she lay awake at night thinking about how different things could have been if she'd just been honest, if she'd communicated instead of cheated, if she'd valued what we had instead of always looking for something more. But mostly, I didn't think about her at all. By the time 8 months had rolled around, life in Flagstaff had settled into a comfortable rhythm. I'd wake up early, make coffee, watch the sunrise over the mountains, head to the hardware store for my shift, come home, read, work on small projects around the house. It was simple, peaceful. Everything my life with Laura hadn't been toward the end. I made a few friends, real ones. People who knew me as Michael the hardware store guy, not Michael the lottery winner. There was Tom, a retired engineer who came in every week for supplies for whatever project he was working on. We'd talk about tools, techniques, life. He invited me to his house for dinner once. His wife made pot roast. It was one of the best meals I'd had in years, not because of the food, but because of the company. No pretense, no agenda, just good people being kind. There was also Sarah, a teacher at the local elementary school who volunteered at the same veterans organization I donated to. We'd see each other at events, chat about the programs, how the kids were doing. She had no idea I was funding half the scholarships she helped distribute. To her, I was just another volunteer who cared about the community. This was the life I'd always wanted. Not the money, though I won't lie, the security was nice, but the peace, the authenticity, the freedom to be myself without judgment. Then one afternoon I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Michael?" It was Laura's voice, shaky, desperate. I should have hung up immediately, but I was curious. How had she gotten this number? "How did you get this number?" I asked, my voice flat. I hired someone. Please don't hang up. I just need 5 minutes. Please." I sat down on my porch, looking out at the mountains. "You've got 3. "Michael, I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I was stupid and selfish, and I threw away everything good for something that meant nothing. He meant nothing. You were everything, and I didn't see it until it was too late." I said nothing, just listened. "I know about the lottery," she continued. "I know you won, and I'm not calling about the money. I don't want your money. I just want to talk, to explain, to see if there's any chance." "There isn't." I cut her off. "Michael, please. Laura, you didn't make a mistake. You made choices, deliberate choices. You chose to cheat. You chose to empty our account. You chose to walk away, and now you're dealing with the consequences of those choices. But if you just let me explain." "Explain what? That you're sorry now because things didn't work out the way you planned? You said I deserved better than you could give me. You said you wanted more. Well, you got what you wanted, just not in the way you expected." There was silence on the other end, then crying. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no anger, no pity, just emptiness where she used to be. "Don't contact me again, Laura. This number will be disconnected after this call. Don't try to find me. Don't reach out to my family. Move on with your life like I've moved on with mine." "Michael," I hung up. Then I called my phone provider and changed my number again. That chapter was closed. Permanently. I heard later, through my brother, that Laura had fallen into some financial trouble. The $12,000 was long gone. She'd gotten into credit card debt trying to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford. Had to move into a cheaper apartment. The guy she'd cheated with had moved to another state. Her friends had slowly distanced themselves once they realized she had nothing to offer but drama and bitterness. My brother asked if I felt bad for her. I told him the truth. I didn't feel anything for her. She was a stranger who'd once been part of my life. What happened to her now was her own responsibility. As the first year after my divorce came and went, life kept moving forward. I started taking classes at the local community college. Not for a degree, just for knowledge. Woodworking, photography. Things I'd always wanted to learn but never had time for when I was working long hours trying to keep up with bills and a wife who always wanted more. I dated a little. Nothing serious. A few dinners here and there with women I met through friends or community events. I was honest about not being ready for anything serious, and they respected that. It felt good to have casual, pressure-free interactions with people who liked me for who I was, not what I could provide. One woman, Jessica, asked me out for coffee after we'd been on 3 dates. She was a nurse at the local hospital. Smart, funny, grounded. Over coffee, she said something that stuck with me. "You know what strikes me about you, Michael? You don't seem like you're running from anything or chasing anything. You're just here, present." She had no idea how accurate that was. We dated for a few months. It didn't turn into anything long-term, but it didn't end badly either. We just naturally drifted into friendship. She's still someone I grab coffee with occasionally, someone I trust. Around that same time, I decided to do something I'd been thinking about for months. I contacted a lawyer in Phoenix and had them quietly pay off my mother's mortgage. She was retired, living on Social Security and a small pension, and the house payment was eating up most of her income. One day she got a letter from her bank saying her mortgage had been paid in full by an anonymous benefactor. She called me crying, asking if I knew anything about it. "No idea, Mom," I lied. "But that's amazing. You deserve it." She knew it was me. Mothers always know. But she didn't push it, just said, "Thank you, baby, for everything." I did similar things for my brother. He'd been struggling with student loans from a degree he never finished. $23,000 in debt that was haunting him. I had it paid off anonymously through what appeared to be a debt forgiveness program. He suspected me but never asked directly. These were the things that mattered. Helping the people who'd been there for me, who'd supported me through the worst time of my life, without expecting anything in return. The money wasn't about buying things or showing off. It was about freedom. About helping others find freedom too. About building a life based on what actually mattered. Relationships, peace, integrity. I thought about what Laura had said to me during our divorce, that I didn't dream big enough, that I was too comfortable being just a maintenance technician, that she deserved more than the simple life we were building. The truth is, she was wrong about everything. I wasn't comfortable. I was content. There's a difference. Comfortable means settling. Content means appreciating what you have while still growing as a person. And I did dream big, just not about money or status. I dreamed about living with integrity, about being the kind of person who kept his word, who treated people with respect, who built real relationships instead of transactional ones. Laura thought more meant more money, more excitement, more status. She never understood that more could mean more peace, more authenticity, more meaning. She traded something real for something shiny. And in the end, the shiny thing tarnished and fell apart, while I was still here, still solid, still real. I sometimes wondered what my life would have been like if I'd never bought that lottery ticket, if I'd just had to rebuild from those $5 through pure grit and time. Honestly, I think I would have been okay. Not financially comfortable as quickly, but okay. Because the real prize wasn't the money. The real prize was learning who I was without her. Learning that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's perception of me. Learning that betrayal, while painful, could also be liberation if you let it be. The lottery just accelerated the process, gave me resources to build faster, but the foundation that I built myself. By the time 2 years had passed since the divorce, I was in a completely different place. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The anger had faded. The hurt had healed. What remained was clarity. I was 38 now, and for the first time in my adult life, I truly understood what it meant to be at peace with yourself. I'd expanded my volunteer work, started mentoring young people at a local community center who were trying to learn trades. Kids from rough backgrounds who needed someone to show them that honest work had dignity, that you didn't need to chase flashy dreams to build a good life. One kid, Danny, reminded me of myself at his age. Quiet, hardworking, uncertain about his future. He was learning electrical work, trying to get his contractor's license. I spent extra time with him, teaching him not just the technical skills but the business side. How to bid jobs fairly, how to build a reputation, how to manage money. He asked me once why I spent so much time helping him when I could be doing anything else. Because someone has to, I told him. And because you remind me that good work and good character still matter. He got his license 6 months later. Started his own small electrical business. Last I heard, he's doing well. Building the kind of life that's sustainable and real. That felt like winning the lottery all over again. I also started traveling a bit. Nothing extravagant. Road trips mostly. I drove through Utah, saw the national parks. Spent a week in Colorado hiking and camping. Visited Seattle, walked through Pike Place Market, watched the ferries cross Puget Sound. These trips taught me something important. I didn't need luxury to enjoy life. A decent hotel, a rental car, good food, and new places to explore. That was enough. More than enough. I met people from all walks of life. A retired couple in Moab who'd sold everything to travel the country in an RV. A single mother in Denver who worked 2 jobs but still made time to volunteer at her daughter's school. A veteran in Portland who'd overcome addiction and now ran a nonprofit helping other veterans transition to civilian life. These were the people who inspired me, not celebrities or millionaires, just regular people doing their best with what they had, choosing integrity over shortcuts, choosing meaning over appearances. I realized something during those trips. Laura had been chasing an illusion. The idea that life gets better when you have more, when you trade up, when you're always reaching for the next thing. But life doesn't work that way. Happiness isn't a destination you arrive at by accumulating enough stuff or status. It's something you build daily through your choices, your relationships, your character. She'd traded something genuine for that illusion, and I'd been given the chance to see what really mattered. Around 2.5 years after everything happened, I got an email. It came through that private account I barely checked anymore. The subject line read, "I owe you an apology." It was from Laura. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. The email was long. Pages of reflection, regret, and what seemed like genuine self-awareness. She talked about therapy, about realizing she'd spent most of her adult life chasing validation from external sources. About how the affair wasn't really about the other guy. It was about her own insecurity and fear that she was missing out on something. She acknowledged that she'd destroyed something real for something empty, that she'd hurt me in ways that couldn't be undone, that she didn't expect forgiveness or reconciliation. She just wanted me to know that she understood finally what she'd lost. The email ended with, "You deserved better than what I gave you. I hope you found the peace you always deserved. I hope you're happy." I read it twice. Then I closed the email and never responded. Not because I was being cruel, but because there was nothing to say. She'd made her peace. I'd made mine. Responding would have just reopened a door that needed to stay closed. I did feel something reading that email, though. Not satisfaction or vindication, more like closure. The final punctuation mark on a chapter that was already over. A few months later, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. She was a park ranger at one of the national forests near Flagstaff. We met at a coffee shop where she was reading a book about sustainable forestry. I recognized the author and mentioned I'd read it too. We started talking. One conversation led to another. Then coffee turned into dinner. Then dinner turned into weekend hikes. Rachel knew I had money, not how much, but enough to know I wasn't working at the hardware store out of necessity. She didn't care. She made her own money, lived within her means, and valued experiences over possessions. What I appreciated most about Rachel was her honesty. When I told her about my divorce, the broad strokes anyway, she didn't pry. She didn't ask questions designed to fish for information. She just listened and said, "Sounds like you've been through a lot. I'm glad you're in a better place now." We took things slow, no rush, no pressure. Just 2 people enjoying each other's company and seeing where it went. One evening, about 8 months into our relationship, we were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. Rachel turned to me and said, "I've been thinking about what makes you different from most people I meet. You have this quality, like you've figured out what actually matters. Most people are still searching. You're not." I smiled. I wasn't always like this. I figured. People don't get there without going through something difficult first. "Very difficult," I added. "Well," she said, squeezing my hand, "whatever it was, it made you into someone worth knowing." We sat in comfortable silence after that, and I realized something profound. This moment right here, sitting with someone who genuinely knew me and valued me for who I was worth more than any amount of money. The lottery had given me financial freedom. But the divorce, as painful as it was, had given me something more valuable, clarity about what actually mattered. I thought about Laura sometimes, but without anger or bitterness. I hoped she'd found her own version of peace, that she'd learned from her mistakes, that she was building a better life for herself. But mostly, I just felt grateful. Grateful that I'd survived the betrayal. grateful that I'd had the chance to rebuild. Grateful for the random impulse that led me to buy a lottery ticket with my last $3. People often ask lottery winners if money changed them. The truth is, money didn't change me. The circumstances around getting it changed me. The betrayal, the loss, the rebuilding, that's what transformed me. The money just gave me the resources to become who I was meant to be without the constant stress of financial survival. Today, in September 2025, at 39 years old, I live exactly as I always wanted, simply, freely, and at peace. I still work at the hardware store part-time, still volunteer at the community center, still live in the same modest house in Flagstaff. To most people, I'm just Michael, the guy who knows a lot about tools and is always willing to help with a project. And that's exactly how I want it. My ex-wife thought I didn't dream big enough. She was wrong. I dreamed about integrity, about peace, about building a life that mattered. And I got it, every bit of it. She took $12,000 and thought she'd won. But what she actually won was the lesson that shortcuts and betrayals lead nowhere good. That real value can't be stolen or manipulated. That character matters more than comfort. I took $3 and turned it into freedom. Not just financial freedom, but emotional freedom. The freedom to live authentically, to help others, to build relationships based on trust and respect. The best revenge isn't planning some elaborate scheme. It's not gloating or rubbing someone's face in their mistakes. The best revenge is living well. Building a life so good, so genuine, so peaceful that you don't even think about the person who wronged you anymore. Because at the end of the day, the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And I'd reached that place. Laura was a chapter in my past, an important one that taught me valuable lessons. But she wasn't part of my present or my future. I'd moved on, truly moved on. And that $3 lottery ticket? It wasn't about the money. It was about timing, about the universe saying, "You've been knocked down hard enough. Here's a hand up, now do something meaningful with it." So I did. I built a life I'm proud of. I help people who need it. I love someone who deserves it. I sleep well at night knowing I've lived with integrity. Laura took our savings and left me with $5. She thought that was the end of my story. Turns out, it was just the beginning of a much better one. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.